The American legal system has been thrown into turmoil in the wake of recent events surrounding former President Donald Trump. With the weight of numerous criminal and civil cases hanging over his head, many of us were hopeful that the courts would finally hold him accountable for his actions that have shaken the foundation of our democracy. But in a shocking turn of events, Judge M. Merchan's recent decision to allow Trump to walk free has left many questioning the integrity of our justice system. His ruling, one that could have sent the former president behind bars, not only appears to be a failure of courage, but a dangerous precedent for the future. As we all awaited the moment when Donald Trump would finally face the consequences for his role in the January 6th insurrection and his other criminal activities, Judge Merchan's decision has put a major dent in our faith in the judicial process. This moment, when Trump should have been handcuffed and led to Rikers Island to face the music, has now turned into yet another embarrassing setback for the legal system, as Trump is allowed to walk free once again. But while the courts may seem to have let Trump off the hook for now, the battle is far from over. In fact, as much as many of us wish that this saga would end with Trump behind bars, the situation is far more complex. Despite Judge Merchan's ruling, the legal battles for Trump are far from finished. In fact, Trump still faces over a dozen civil cases, many of which could be far more consequential than anyone realizes. From sexual abuse cases to lawsuits related to the events of January 6th, there are plenty of legal hurdles left for Trump to face. And while he may have walked free in the criminal arena, his fate is far from sealed. One such case, in particular, has garnered national attention. The civil suits stemming from the January 6th insurrection are poised to create a situation that could finally have irreversible consequences for the former president. As much as many hoped for swift justice, this battle has now reached a critical point, and the final verdict could drastically alter Trump's future. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the state of the legal cases against Donald Trump, why Judge Merchan's ruling has ignited a wave of frustration, and how the civil suits, especially the ones related to the January 6th insurrection, could still have the power to bring Trump to justice. There's much more to this story than meets the eye, and the ultimate question remains, can Trump truly escape the consequences of his actions? Judge M. Merchan's ruling, a missed opportunity for accountability. Judge M. Merchan, who presided over several important cases related to Donald Trump, recently made a decision that many saw as a catastrophic blow to justice. The situation was clear. Trump, facing numerous charges and allegations, had the potential to be held accountable for his actions in the courts. But instead of upholding the legal principles of fairness and justice, Merchan allowed Trump to walk free, sending a message that, for some, seemed like a signal of weakness in the face of unprecedented political power. Merchan, who has handled other cases involving Trump, including those related to his financial dealings, was expected by many to take a more assertive stance. With charges ranging from obstruction of justice to election interference, Trump had no shortage of reasons to be brought to trial and, in many minds, locked away for good. However, Merchan's decision has led to a fierce debate about the strength and integrity of the justice system, especially in cases involving individuals with the resources and connections that Trump possesses. For months, the public had hoped that the legal system would finally hold Trump accountable for his role in the Capitol riot and other criminal activities. The situation seemed clear. He incited an insurrection, endangered the lives of public servants, and violated the public trust. And yet, in what could be seen as a monumental moment in American legal history, Merchan let Trump walk free. His ruling has left many legal observers scratching their heads, as it seems to contradict the principles of justice that the court is supposed to uphold. But the question remains, will this ruling be the final word? Is it really the end of Trump's legal battles, or is it just another obstacle in what is turning out to be a long and complicated fight for accountability? Trump still faces dozens of civil lawsuits. While many of us were disheartened by the recent ruling, it's important to remember that Trump's legal troubles are far from over. In fact, there are still more than a dozen civil cases looming over him, all of which have the potential to wreak havoc on his future. These cases, filed before Trump even became president, could lead to significant financial penalties or, in some cases, legal ramifications that would leave Trump with no way out. The most notable of these cases involves the sexual abuse allegations brought forward by writer Jean Carroll. Carroll claims that Trump sexually assaulted her in the 1990s, and a jury has already ruled in her favor, awarding her millions of dollars in damages. Trump is currently appealing both verdicts, but these appeals are unlikely to completely absolve him. Even though these cases might not lead to prison time, they represent a serious threat to Trump's reputation and his ability to continue his political career. Perhaps more pressing, however, are the civil suits related to the January 6th insurrection. These lawsuits, which were filed by law enforcement officers and members of Congress who were directly impacted by the events of that day, could have lasting consequences. The suits claim that Trump played a pivotal role in inciting the riot and causing the harm that followed. If a court rules that Trump's actions were directly responsible for the violence on January 6, it could make it incredibly difficult for him to continue his political career. Importantly, these cases are being heard in Washington, D.C., a place that has seen firsthand the destruction Trump's actions caused. The judge overseeing these cases, Judge Amit P. Mehta, has a history of ruling against Trump in criminal matters related to the Capitol riot. His involvement in this case could be critical in determining the outcome, and should Trump be found guilty, it could set in motion a series of events that will make it impossible for him to continue his post-presidency life without severe consequences. The January 6th insurrection cases, a turning point for Trump's future. One of the most significant legal challenges facing Trump is the group of civil suits that have been filed by police officers, Congress members, and others who suffered from the January 6th insurrection. These suits argue that Trump is directly responsible for the violence that took place that day, as his rhetoric and actions helped incite a mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol. What makes these cases so significant is that they are being heard in federal district court in Washington, D.C. The judge, Amit P. Mehta, is known for his careful, thorough handling of cases related to the insurrection. Given that Trump's involvement in the riot is at the heart of the case, a guilty verdict could have far-reaching consequences. In addition to potentially costing Trump millions in damages, a ruling in favor of the plaintiffs would mark a monumental shift in how Trump's actions on January 6th are perceived. A court would officially label the events of that day as an insurrection, and Trump would be seen as a key figure in orchestrating it. This is crucial because, according to the 14th Amendment, anyone who participates in an insurrection is barred from holding public office in the future. This ruling could make Trump's political ambitions untenable. While the Supreme Court's recent ruling on Trump's immunity seemed to give him a temporary reprieve from certain civil lawsuits, it doesn't grant him the protection he needs in these cases. The legal implications of a guilty verdict in the January 6th lawsuits are profound. A ruling against Trump could strip him of any hope of regaining political power. And, more importantly, it could lead to Trump's permanent disqualification from holding public office in the future. A constitutional crisis. What's at stake? The stakes in these cases couldn't be higher. If Trump is found guilty of playing a role in the insurrection, it will not only solidify the narrative that he incited the violence on January 6, but it will also open the door to his disqualification from public office. That's the real power of the January 6 civil suits. They hold the potential to not only punish Trump financially, but to render him politically irrelevant for good. For those who continue to believe that Trump is above the law, this case could prove them wrong. The legal system is not completely broken, despite the many setbacks we've seen throughout the years. And while Judge Merchan's recent ruling may feel like a loss, there is still hope that justice will be served. The ruling by Judge Juan M. Merchan has left us all questioning the strength and integrity of the justice system in the United States. But as much as we might feel disheartened by the lack of immediate consequences for Trump, the fact remains that he is far from free from the legal challenges ahead. With over a dozen civil lawsuits still on the table, including the critical cases related to January 6, Trump's legal battles are far from over. The civil suits related to the insurrection could ultimately prove to be his undoing, especially if a federal court rules that Trump was responsible for inciting the violence on that fateful day. If that happens, Trump's future in politics could be over, and the lessons learned from this case will reverberate through the nation for years to come. So while we may have witnessed yet another instance of Trump avoiding immediate legal consequences, there is still hope that the legal system will ultimately do its job and hold him accountable for his actions. The bells of justice may have been delayed, but they're still ringing. And for Donald Trump, they may toll for him sooner than he thinks.